Hey everyone, welcome to the NintendoFuse Podcast. This is episode 244, entitled Millions Sold and Billions Spent, because we're going to be talking a lot about Nintendo selling a ton of their consoles and Microsoft and Sony kind of going on a buying spree recently. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the podcast, but before we jump into any of that, maybe you're wondering who are these people talking to us? My name is Steve, and of course, I am not here alone. I'm also joined by Barry. Hey, Barry, how's it going?
Hey, Steve. Always a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, great to have you, and also great to have Greg. Hey, Greg.
Hey, always glad to be on here. Was my favorite part every 2 weeks.
Awesome. Yeah, I was actually I went on a little nostalgia trip this last week and looked back at some of our video podcast over the years, looking back to episode 100 when we started doing video, and kind of looked at us through the years, and yeah, it's kind of fun to see young us, like, I don't know, is it like 11, 12 years ago now, and everything. So it's kind of fun. So if you haven't done so yet, maybe check out our archive of all the old podcasts on YouTube. It's fun to look through.
I'm trying to think 100. We had Hassan and we also had Alex here. It was 5 of us.
Yeah. It was there was sometimes it was a lot. And I think the 10-year end episode was fun. I was watching back that and got to see Mickey and Alex, and I think Roth made a video for us and stuff like that too. So it was really fun to check that out and kind of go back into memory lane, if you will. So yeah, if you haven't checked that out, be sure to do that. This is episode 244 though, so we have like a ton of episodes before this. On the road to soon to be 250 and going to 300. Jakester's wondering where Alex is these days. That's a really good question. That trip down memory lane made me wonder the same thing.
Yeah, I think I used to have him on Facebook, but I haven't seen him post in forever, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Not really sure. One of the things I also realized is Jakester has been a fan for quite a while now. I didn't realize how long he'd been around, but back in the early days of video, I think maybe even when we went to video at the very beginning, I think he was around and listening and watching and everything. So Jakester, you're one of our biggest fans, one of our longtime fans. So thanks for being around. Speaking of Jakester and everybody else that's joining us in the chat room, both on Twitch and YouTube, thanks for joining us. And if any of the things that we talk about tonight interest you, please let us know what you think and what your thoughts are. Any of the news stories. We're going to talk in just a bit about what we've been playing, so we'd love to know what you've been playing as well. And yeah, just throw those in the chat, in the live chat, either on YouTube or on Twitch, and we'd love to interact with all of you like throughout the episode. Also, if you have not done so yet, please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. That's at NintendoFuse. We love interacting with all of you throughout the episode, but also in between episodes. That's a great way to do that. Also, join us on Discord. That's another great way to connect with us. The link is on the screen, also in the show notes for all social media and Discord. So love to have you guys join us and join the conversation in between episodes. A quick programming note before we jump into everything today is that normally we do this live every other week, every other Monday, but the next episode would be on Valentine's Day, and we decided to go ahead and we're going to pre-record that episode, so that one won't necessarily be live. It will be premiering on YouTube for you guys to watch and everything. But and please do tune in, and you can kind of join in the chat and have that conversation and everything. But if you're watching later and you're wondering why aren't they paying attention to me in the chat room, it's because we will already have pre-recorded that one, so that we can hang out with our significant others on Valentine's Day. But yeah, that's going to happen. Just so 2:45, that's what's going to be happening. So ahead of time, that's going to be a pre-recorded episode. But all that stuff out of the way, now it's time to talk about what we've been playing, and let's go ahead and kick us off there, Barry.
I do have to say a quick shout out to Dash in the chat. He came in, he's saying hi, so hi Dash. Dash is a great guy. I got to guest on his podcast. So absolutely check it out. The NXS podcast. I was part of the Nintendo special. Great crew over there. They do a great job. So shout out to them, and thanks again for having me on.
Cool.
But yeah, definitely give them some love. As for what I've been playing, I have not played as much as the past week. I did a little bit of things on the Switch. Still doing Animal Crossing, doing my daily stuff. Same with Pokemon Unite. Just more like knocking out the daily goals. Uh, I decided I was gonna give Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp a try. I was like, all right, let me try and do this. And I played a couple rounds, and it's extremely grindy. It's really cool. It's a board game. Pretty much, you have like 50 days to beat virtually Danganronpa 2, but as a board game. So you're constantly rolling, and you have all these different interactions, and you're not going to beat it the first time. You're going to run out of time. You're going to run out of days. But the idea is you get a couple of the characters up, and then you can take them to, like, it's RPG battle. So you take them to like this RPG battle arena and level them up and bring them back in, and hopefully beat it. But it's a gotcha system. So if you want your particular favorite character, because it includes all characters from the first 4 games of Danganronpa, um, you're going to either have to get extremely lucky or buy the character. And each character has 4 versions. So there's a lot of characters, and there's some side characters too. Like, it is insane. I did not beat the story. I played enough to the point that I really didn't feel like doing another 50-day grind going through it, even though it's incredibly detailed. The highlight is these interactions. You get to see characters from the first game, the second game, the Ultra Despair Girls and V3 all interact with each other, and that is hilarious because there's certain archetypes in each game, and you get to see them interact. All the jocks get to interact. All the tech geeks interact. It's really cool, and sometimes it's the people who kill each other, and they're interacting and they're having a good time. So um, I like that aspect, and I might just do like a YouTube to watch some of those scenes. But I just couldn't bring myself to do more of a grind on it. So unfortunately, luckily, it's a side story, it's a side game, it's non-canon. It's more like it's fan service game. Also, fun fact: the physical of that, the Danganronpa Decades or Decadence, sorry. It's the first time a major or more major publisher did a physical with 4 games on it. When you load it in, you get all 4 games. First time in America that's happened from a more major company. But we have Premium Edition actually did that first with Pigeon Dev for the US. But it was cool to see, like, oh, other companies are starting to do this now. I also booted up Pokemon Shield. Messed around just a little bit. Wanted to use my code because you get the shiny codes from GameStop. They end tonight. So if you haven't used your codes and you're listening to this now, make sure to use them. Played a little Quad Fighters. It's a pretty much a shmup which has, like, you gotta have all 4 ships together. It's a really interesting system. I was messing around with the physical from B-Sides. 2 games that I'll be reviewing for a future episode: Breakneck City and Demoniaca, as well as Rochoga Snowboarding, which we'll be talking about tonight. But then also a little game called Pokemon Legends Arceus, which has completely captured my heart. And I am already a 6-star rank, so I can catch Pokemon up to level 80, and they listen to me. And I finished the second area. I haven't even gone to the third area yet. Like, I'm just having fun and don't feel it a grind. The polar opposite of, like, Danganronpa. I'm just running around Breath of the Wild style, catching Pokemon and battling Pokemon and finding alphas and exploring, and I'm having a good time, and I'm still discovering areas that I hadn't seen before. Even in, like, the first area, I'm like, what's over here? Oh, there's a rock I could break. Oh, this leads to a cave. Oh, this leads to a whole nother side that I've never been to. With new Pokemon, I love it. I absolutely love it. Some people may not like the graphics. I like the art style, but absolutely loving it. PC side, still playing Final Fantasy 14, still a phenomenal game, and they've opened it up for purchase at this point. So while you can't try the demo, if you are interested, I highly recommend giving it a shot. It is an amazing experience. And on the mobile side, still Dragalia Lost and Mario Kart Tour.
Nice. Let's go to the chat real quick, and looks like Jared has been usual Pokemon Go, Mario Kart, Mario Run, and now a lot of Pokemon Legends Arceus as well. And then Jakester has been playing a lot of Lego City Undercover, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, the first time playing through a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, and Fate Grand Order, and also Tetris 99 to get the Pokemon Legends theme. Jared said he beat, I'm guessing, Pokemon Legends.
You beat Legends,
and
and he's only 5-star. And I'm a 6-star, and I'm just going into the
you're
third
just
area
wasting
now.
time there. That's what I'm hearing. So
I'm having so much fun.
This is me who's also said, like, I haven't even finished the last game because I got stuck in the wild area and just kind of played around there and forgot about the main game.
This whole game is the wild area, so
that's why I'm kind of afraid to just jump into it, because I'm like, you know what, I will forget about all the other games and only play that probably. So, or just get like too much and I'll give up on it because there's too much to do. One or the other will happen. Dash says 5-star and nearly 6-star in the third area. So that's nice. Nice. So, Greg, what have you been up to lately?
Well, as long as we're talking about Pokemon, I was playing Pokemon Sword. So I did purchase a copy of Shield from Disc Replay, so then I have both of them now. But my daughter's kind of claimed that one to try to beat me to get to Zamazanta first. So
nice.
I went back to Sword to try to complete my Pokedex there. Right around 350 of them are logged that I'm still trying to get the last some of them, but I don't know how much more I'll be able to get because I feel like there's pretty much the other ones are like impossible to find, or I have no idea on where to get them. So moving on to other games I was playing, still doing some Animal Crossing, buying turnips and doing daily stuff, and still designing vacation homes when I get a chance. I can't let go of Animal Crossing. It's really hard. Don't know. Need help, send help. Per the last podcast, I had a lot of recommendations to do Life is Strange True Colors. So
I don't know who that was from.
I don't know either. I don't know if I was in the last podcast for that discussion.
It's true. You were just joining in the audience and was convinced by all of our, when we turned the last episode into a Life is Strange podcast.
Yeah, so I ended up getting through the first 3 chapters there. I've been keeping tabs with Barry and sent like the choices, at least the first 2 chapters. I probably owe him the 3rd chapter, but it's really great. It's really surprised me and like how like thorough everything is, like the story is and everything like that. So it's a fantastic game with very little to actually like explore and do, but like the stuff you do is really fun. I've also played all the different arcade machines and I've gotten high scores on all of those. So if
Nice.
I'm taking breaks and all the story stuff to actually play those games and take out the Gabe's high score and all the machines.
Right. That's
so it's
awesome.
like there's like the breakout machine and then like the one that's like in the apartment are like the 2 that I've found and played so far, but hoping to find some more as the rest of the story continues.
Cool.
Also wanted to prepare for the new Mario and Rabbids game. I was starting to actually play the first one, so I got almost through the entire first chapter, I guess, because it's 1-7 or something that I'm on right now. So I'm having a lot of fun going through with that game. I've never played it before and had purchased it like a year or so after it came out, like when it was on like a super deal or whatever for Black Friday or whatever. It was like $20 for the DLC and the game or whatever, something ridiculous like that. It's a very great game and definitely would recommend that one if you haven't checked it out yet before the new one comes out. Also, I picked up a GameCube this last week and I've been playing a lot of Mario Baseball. I've found some like people that are playing it on doing net play on YouTube, and I was just kind of like watching their videos, and I absolutely love that game. That's like one of my favorite GameCube games. So always had that game, and never had a game. Got rid of my GameCube mistakenly, and then I finally got it back. So finally able to enjoy it some more. And then still playing Fire Emblem Heroes on mobile.
Nice. Let's see. Looks like Kevin also said that he is excited for a few physical releases coming up. Gato Rapato, Yuppie Psycho, and been playing a lot of Tetris and Mario Kart from the SNES over the weekend. That's really cool. And Jakester's also been playing Daemon X Machina on PC. Very fun game, but the story and characters are very uninteresting. That was on sale, wasn't it? Like a really big sale, like or free, something like that.
Free
Yeah,
on PC.
nice. I think it was only Windows, and I think that's why I avoided
Epic
it
Game
because
Store,
I don't actually have a Windows PC to use it on. But so that's really exciting. For those of you guys that got the opportunity to grab it, Logan says, "Evening all, good evening." Oh, it's still free until the 3rd, so still get a chance. So it's if you, I forgot to mention this at the very beginning, but it is January 31st as we're recording this tonight. So you do have a couple days to still grab it on the Epic Game Store for free. Yeah, so I have been playing Rocket League, of course. Been playing some Life is Strange True Colors. I have now played through chapters 1 and 2 twice. Because I finally got tired of waiting on that update to fix that glitch, and because I was just like chomping the bit to get back into the story because it's so good, and I was like, fine, all right. This last Saturday, I decided or Friday it was, I decided to just sit down and like actually play through chapters 1 and 2 again to get back to the point where I left off. I think I made most of the same decisions. I tried to remember exactly. Some of them were some of those like quick ones that you have to make on the fly, and I was like, I didn't have enough time to think about like which one did I choose last time. So I think some of those are not that big of a deal. So, but I feel pretty confident on the choices that I was able to lead into, and I think I did make I purposely made a different decision than I did last time on one of them, just because I was like, you know what, I really should have done this other thing instead. But yeah, I think I'm most of the way through chapter 3 right now. In fact, I was playing it right before we started recording, and you guys are just lucky I made it on time. We'll just say that because I was really quick. I was really close to just be like, you know what? We don't need to record a podcast tonight. I'm just going to keep playing Life is Strange instead. So that's been fun. And yeah, as we've said before, it's so heartwarming and like grabs your emotional like heartstrings at different times, and you have to deal with different things than you normally have to in a video game, which is really cool. And yeah, really just enjoying. I think the storytelling is just so good in this game. So that's been fun. And yeah, right now, that is the only game I'm going to be playing for a while on Switch, because I am not turning that thing off. I am only putting it to sleep. So I did test it, and as of right now, as of like a little bit into chapter 1, I could restart it, but I'm really not going to take any chances anymore. So my Switch is a Life is Strange machine until I beat that game. So I did play this other game right before I started Life is Strange again. It's called Wrecked. It's REKT, and it's a racing kind of trick racing game, and it's just okay. I'll just say that. The controls are kind of wonky. It's kind of like Stunt Race FX. If you remember Stunt Race FX, it's kind of like that, where you try to do a bunch of different tricks and stuff in this car and ramps and all this stuff, and try not to wreck your car, essentially. So yeah, it's pretty fun. Let's see. Looking at this chat, and Jakester said the pod. Thanks, Jakester. Appreciate that. And Logan says, sounds like you asked what people are playing. If so, I beat Wild at Heart on PC, and then Achilles Legends Untold PC beta a bit, and the guy moved like a tank, pitiful, versus other ARPGs that he's played. So, all right, I guess maybe stay away from that game. Cool. So we got. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying really quick, for at least on like Life is Strange, like I don't have like multiple save files. Like I didn't see anything in there to create additional ones, so I don't know what's going on there.
Until you start a new game. Yeah, and the only reason I saw that is because my other one was corrupted and like I couldn't access it, so I had to start a new game. And when you hit new game on the main screen, it gives you there's like 5 different save file options, so you could just choose a different one. Yeah.
Just making sure, because like I didn't link it. I don't have like a Square Enix account, so I never linked that or whatever. So.
Oh, yeah. And I still can't. Yeah, it's still not connecting to the internet. Like I can't do it at all. I hit the button and it just refreshes the menu and that's it. So I did take screenshots of my choices, so I'll share them with you guys eventually. But I can't just naturally do it online because I still can't connect. So.
Yeah, I did the chapter summaries. That's what I've been sending to Barry because it's a lot easier to capture multiple decisions instead of going through individually and typing them all out.
Oh yeah. That's totally. After I get done with the chapter, I'll just take screenshots of all the different pages and yeah, that way I can at least have them. So, and if I have to, replay it again, I'm not taking any chances this next time. So. But I do have chapter one of the next of the first couple games already downloaded on my iPad and my Xbox. So I'm like trying to decide which one I want to play them on. But I do have those. I think actually I downloaded Life is Strange 2 Chapter 1 as well on Xbox. So I just got to figure out which direction I want to go with the games. But I'm ready when I make that decision after I get in with True Colors. So I'm all ready. Well, we have a game to review tonight before we move on to the news, and there's a lot of big news that we're going to be talking about. But before we get into all of that, we're going to switch over and do a quick review for you all.
Today we'll be talking a little bit about Rochoga Snowboarding. Disclaimer, both Steve and I received codes from East Asia Soft, so thank you very much for the codes. This did come out December 22nd, 2021, so right there at the tail end of last year. Again, East Asia Soft and Infinite State Games are the developer, published by East Asia Soft. And this is like a culmination of two classic arcade style games. It's a combination of Frogger, where you start the game and you pretty much play as Horatio from your start to grab a snowboard, which you have to pay for, and getting to the copter to get up on top of the mountain. And of course, once you're going down the mountain, it switches over to ski free from old Windows 95 3.1 days. And while you're going down the mountain, you have goalposts to go through and kind of keep your chain up. You've got the Yeti coming after you. There's, other skiers on there that you can knock down, but you just can't get hit by trees. You can't get knocked down. And if you make it to the end, you get money based on how well you did. And every time you die, you lose 100 pounds because it's European. And if you run out of money, you game over. So the idea is to go for as long as you can before you get that game over. And you're constantly moving when you're on ski, so you can't just like stay one way. You're kind of zigzagging, much like real skiing or snowboarding. So, Steve, that's a little overview. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, the game is fun. Like I think that's one of my biggest really quick summary is I had fun with it. I'm glad that it's not that expensive. Because I think there's not a whole lot of content there, but it's enjoyable. I had a fun time with it. It is very addicting. Like it's one of those games where you die and you're like, wait, oh man, I could have done better, and so you boot it right back up and try to go again. And it does get frustrating when you do, you make one mistake and you're dead, and a lot of times it's those mistakes that you're like, if I would have just took one more second to think about what I was doing there, I wouldn't have done it. Or I took too long to think about it and, something got me. So you got to think on your feet and everything. I think I really like the I don't know what you call it, the continue style of it. The money thing works. Like it just works. And as soon as I was getting into it, I was like, this makes sense. It's not a life situation. It's like you have to pay for your hospital bills every time to keep going, and you run out of money, you're game over. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense, and it's actually fun. I just wish that I think the Frogger ones are too short, and sometimes the skiing ones or snowboarding ones are too long. I would say they're not. The ratio of them are there's like it's not equal enough in my mind, and I wish I could see a little bit more of the screen because going downhill snowboarding is tough sometimes. So you have to like slalom a lot more to slow yourself down so you can see more. But trying to do that while also avoiding everything and trying to go through all the flags and stuff, it gets tough at higher levels. So it is very fun, but the difficulty does ramp up, especially in the snowboarding. I didn't see so much difficulty ramp up in the kind of car Frogger kind of stuff, but the snowboarding does ramp up quite a bit.
Yeah, the Frogger sections are very, very short. I almost feel like they were tacked on. Like, what could we do? Because the main game is the snowboarding section, and I like that it's there. I think that's neat, and it's just funny the sound effects. The cars honking at you, and I never got hit by a car, but I assume that's a game over right there if you do.
It's the same.
But
It's the same as the
like a tree.
snowboarding. You kind of have to go back and yeah.
Yep. Okay. So just try not to get hit. But yeah, like you said, I do wish you could see more of the bottom of the screen as you go through, but I think that's also part of the challenge. And like you said, the difficulty ramps up. If that's old school classic arcade, Donkey Kong was 4 levels, and then you just repeated them, and they got harder and harder and harder. Pac-Man was a couple levels, and they got harder and harder and harder. So that's really what this is. It's the same kind of thing. So it is a lot of fun. I don't know how much it is, but it's great for
$6.99.
when you want to. $6.99. It's not bad for you can get some good entertainment out of it. It's great in the middle. Like I don't have a lot of time to play. 10 minutes. You can get a good run in and see how you do.
Yeah. I think it's definitely good for like $7. It's a quick. It's like I said, it's not enough content there to have for even a $10 or $20 game. But for what it is, for like $7, and I'm sure these games like this will go on sale. And when they do, this is definitely one to pick up if you see it on sale for sure. But even at this, if you like that kind of a style of game, I'd highly recommend it. It's very fun. It's one of those pick up and play games, but you can get sucked into it if you get the challenge gets you and grabs you. It could be one you could be playing for an hour or two if you really challenging yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I recommend it if it's one of those that if this sounds interesting to you, you like the old school arcadey type of games, and especially if you have fond memories of Frogger and Ski Free, especially Ski Free, definitely pick it up and give it a spin. Yeah, otherwise, wait for a sale if those aren't your cup of tea. But I did have a lot of fun, and I do have to mention the music is amazing. Like my subwoofer, the bass was just like rocking my house. It's one of those things where this track is better than it deserves to be. It's so good.
Nice. Yeah, I that now you're gonna get me to hook it up to my sound system. Now I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's good.
Nice. So yeah, huge thanks to Activision-Blizzard for giving us a chance to review this, and here we definitely recommend this game.
Yeah, thank you very much, Activision-Blizzard.
Cool. Well, it is time to move into the news, and we got some news to talk about. According to estimates by VG Charts, the Nintendo Switch has outsold the PS1. So that's just estimates, of course, but they've surpassed 101 million units sold. Possibly by now, maybe having 102 million units sold. So it should be bringing its lifetime sales to 102.81 million sold. So we're getting close to 103 million. That is. So this is kind of crazy. We've talked about this so many times on this podcast because every time we turn around, the Switch is surpassing another milestone. And we always ask this question, where is it gonna stop? Is it gonna keep going? Is it eventually going to be the number one selling console, or is it eventually going to kind of peter out? A lot of it probably depends on where Nintendo comes in with their next console. Will they kind of kill their own sales in order to sell the next one, or how is that going to go down? So yeah, I'd love to just know your guys' thoughts on Nintendo Switch hitting this next milestone. Of course, this is not official. This is just estimates based on what VG Charts has stated. But I tend to think that they're probably spot on, or at least really really close in where the numbers are. This does make the Switch the 5th best-selling console of all time, I think now. So that's pretty high up there. So Barry, what do you think of these sales numbers and this next milestone that Nintendo has hit?
I mean, these are absolutely great. I mean, it's fantastic for Nintendo. Like you said, how far it goes really depends on Nintendo. And the Switch OLED wasn't the Switch Pro we all wanted, and there was rumors that it was supposed to be a Switch Pro, but because of the shortages, they did what they did, and they didn't want to compete with Sony and Microsoft and Apple and everybody for the same chips. If that's the case, that makes sense. So are we going to get a Switch 2? And if we get a Switch 2 next, is it just going to kill the Switch? Or are they going to keep supporting the Switch going forward? All these things really depend on the Switch sales. It all depends on Nintendo and how they go forward. I do think that it's going to top the Game Boy / Game Boy Color, which, in my opinion, they should be separate, but it will top them. PlayStation 4, I'm not sure about, only because they just started production again on the PlayStation 4, because PlayStation 5, they just can't produce them. So, that goalpost is actually moving, because PlayStation 4 is now going to be selling more again, and it's still obviously supported. So I think there's a chance it could outsell the PS4. I mean, the PS4 came out in 2013. We're 2022 now. We're almost at a decade, a 9-year mark for it coming up. And the Switch hasn't even hit its 5th year, 2017 to 2022, but it was March. So March is going to be the anniversary. So Switch can do a lot. If Switch keeps this momentum up, if they're able to keep going, Switch could outsell the PS4. Now, will it hit the DS or the PS2? It's possible. I mean, I'm not going to say no, and I'm never going to count Nintendo out. But that's a lofty goal, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, it's the Switch keeps selling. Is there an end in sight, or is it just going to keep on going and eventually become the best-selling console of all time?
I mean, I personally believe it deserves to be like one of the best-selling consoles of all time. It's got tons of quality games. It's got the best of both worlds, of being a handheld system and a home console at the same time. So I think that's a recipe for success. I mean, the PlayStation 2 is a home console, the DS is a handheld. This is both, so the sky's the limit. But as Barry said, it's ultimately up to Nintendo. They could easily just kill the thing by saying Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be on the next platform or whatever. So they really can do all sorts of things to make sure that doesn't happen. So I'd like it to easily see it past the Game Boy Color and the PlayStation 4, but it really ultimately depends. I mean, it's a fantastic console. It's well deserved to be this high on the list, and it deserves to go higher. It just all on Nintendo if they're set to keep it going strong, or if they're just going to kill its momentum and end it right there. I mean, what they really need to do is just get Metroid Prime 4, get some sort of window out there, and Breath of the Wild 2, and I think that could see some more surges in consoles being sold.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's interesting, we talk these numbers all the time, and I'm sure that Nintendo and Microsoft and Sony are looking at those numbers and everything too. And the funny thing is I tend to think, us as fans, we kind of think, is it going to keep climbing and everything, where Nintendo is probably sitting back and go, we don't care as much, because we just want to make the next great system that is going to sell a lot and make people happy. And so like they would probably, if they feel like they have this next system ready, I don't care if it cannibalizes these numbers right now and we cut the Switch off at the knees before it gets a chance to surpass our own Game Boy, because we believe in this next system. But for us, it's funny because we were like, oh, is it going to keep going? Is it eventually going to be number 4? Is it eventually going to be number 3? Where probably Nintendo's sitting back and like, guys, it doesn't matter. Like, we're just going to keep making good stuff, and hopefully you buy it and enjoy games on it. Yeah, so I know, let's see, Kevin is hoping for a Switch Pro that's backwards compatible. And I wonder if it is, if it ends up being a Switch Pro or something like that, would they even count the numbers in, like Game Boy Color? Would it be like kind of that thing, like a DS, DSi, kind of version? I mean, I'm assuming like the OLED is like that. It's part of those numbers. So would they... Or do they care enough about numbers to include it and couple it together, or will it be its own thing?
It depends on if it's an iteration, like the iPhone, iteration kind of deal. If it's a Switch Pro and it's just a more powerful Switch, but no new library, and all games are playable on it, then that would count. If it's a Switch 2 with Switch 2 specific games that happens to be backwards compatible and all things are going to be Switch 2 going forward, then no, Switch 2 would count as its new system. Like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X are counted with the PS4 and the Xbox One because they're part of the same console generation, where the PS5 and the Xbox Series X count as brand new systems. Yeah. So it depends on what Nintendo does.
It's true. It's interesting. I think like we've talked about this for years. It's funny that there ended up being another console generation, but will there be a time where we don't have a console generation anymore? That it's like the PC gaming world, where you just continue to upgrade and you get better things over time, and it's always backwards compatible, at least to some extent. And there is no sort of thing as a console generation anymore. What will, eventually then we'll have numbers that keep just going up and up and up and up and up because, there's nothing to replace it.
Then it'll be about how fast did you do those numbers? Like, again, the PlayStation 4 is just a little bit above the Switch. It's maybe 15 million above or so, which is a big number. But again, the PS4 came out in 2013 and the Switch came out in 2017. So you're looking at a 4-year difference. So when that 15 million in 4 years is actually quite pitiful for console sales.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, Greg, what do you think? Where are we going from here? Will we continue to see more console generations, or do you think we're kind of going to see the end of that as we move forward?
It's really hard to say. I mean, I feel like the generations are just a normal term just to like indicate like, oh, this is like the next like evolution like towards of gaming, and it's just, I don't know, it's just like the Pokemon generations. It's just like the next evolution forward, and I don't think I feel like in years past they've been more organized, where they're all coming out like around the same time, like within a year or two time span. But now that Nintendo's kind of like branched off and are just releasing systems whenever they feel like it, now it kind of like it's kind of hard to say what generation like the Switch is supposed to be in versus like their next one going to be in. It's because it's like Sony and Microsoft are still releasing around the same time. Mm-hmm. Like PlayStation 5 and the Series X and S or whatever all like came out within just like weeks of each other. So I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say like where the generation stuff goes. I mean, it's probably just fuels like the fan fire for like console wars and stuff, like because it's like, oh, the generation starts on this date and boom, and that's going forward. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just an age and a number. Nothing really important, really.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like you said, it's only really fuels the console war stuff. Like most people probably don't really care, like if you really think about it. There's a lot of chat around the NVIDIA chips in the chat room. Do we know anything about what NVIDIA is doing, or are there any rumors or anything? Will Nintendo be sticking with NVIDIA chips moving forward to their next console, or could we see them swing and do their own thing, or go with a different company as they think chips? Because that's a lot of times when we think of generations, it's also the next next generation of CPU or chip, system on chip that's involved in that. Do you guys know anything about any rumors or anything that might be coming out from NVIDIA or anything like that?
I haven't heard anything, so
I haven't heard anything
I'm not saying
either.
there's not. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know that it, there has been more, like NVIDIA has moved forward, I think maybe at one generation or two generations since the chip that's actually in the Switch. But yeah, is that what we're going to see in the next console or not? But I do know, like we talked about, I think there's been rumors, people checking that out, that it is 4K possible, and I think at least 120 frames per second that you can get sort of the frame rate and everything, or refresh rate from those kind of chips. So if they like that relationship with NVIDIA, that could be where they continue to go.
it
See.
depends though if they want to use more of the top line chips. I mean, even when the Switch came out, the chips that are in the Switch were not top of the line. There were other ones right around the corner. The X1 was old at that point, and they went with it for being cheaper. So if they, if Nintendo wants to give us top of the line system going in, and they're going to charge us more of a premium, and if they think that they could get the Switch away with a $400-500 price tag, we could get a real beefy Switch. But this is Nintendo. Look, they charge $250 for the 3DS with no launch titles, and people felt it was overpriced, and they cut it to $170, and it started to sell. The Switch came out at $300, which was a nice sweet spot, and it worked, and people were happy. If they go above that, and I'd like to see them, I wouldn't mind paying $400 or $500 for a Switch. And I know some people that may be harder to do with money, but if you're going to get a system that is going to be powerful enough to handle some of these third-party games, and you don't have these compromises, and you're getting this for the longevity, it's not just like, oh, I get it, but it's only for a month. Like, it's for the lifetime of a system. It's worth it as an investment if you play a lot of games. And that's where they can do that and still leave the Switch and say, hey, look, if you're not into $500 handhelds, you've got kids, whatever, you can get a Switch Lite, you can get a regular Switch, whatever they want to continue with, and you got a library of thousands of games already there, you could do that. And then for the hardcore can move on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's up to Nintendo.
That's true. Greg, what do you think about that idea? Like having, the Switch stick around as a lower end, or possibly would they even have two different versions come out next time, similar to what Microsoft and Sony have done, as kind of like a base model or a version, or not a version one, but a version A and version B, that one's more powerful than the other. What do you think about that approach? Do you like that as a gamer yourself, or could that turn people off?
I think it would be great. I mean, options are always better. I mean, but Nintendo just hasn't been one to do very well with that. I mean, their Wii U, the black console is the one that really sold. Like their under quality one, the white one was just absolutely atrocious. Like it had that's just because they don't know how to bundle stuff together. If they actually had something like the Xbox S and S, like in difference, I'm sure Nintendo would be much better at doing that. But if they're just going to be just trying to you can get like an extra 32 gigabytes of hard drive space and pay us like an extra $100, I mean, I think that's where they're not very good at doing these separate machines.
I think with the Wii U, I mean, the whole thing was a blunder, but there was no value in getting the 8 megabyte or whatever one, because the black one had more memory. It was $50 more, but you also got Nintendo Land. So it really was no value whatsoever in going for the white one, because especially if you wanted Nintendo Land, why jip yourself on the less memory? And there was also that digital discount thing that I think was terrible. Look
fantastic.
at the Xbox. I never used it. Look at the Xbox One S, or the Series S and the Series X. They're both selling. And yes, the Series S is digital only versus the Xbox One Series X. But unlike the PlayStation 5, which I think the PlayStation 5 digital only is a terrible value, because it's $100 less and it's the same power. And so for $100 more, you're getting a disc drive that you could play all PS4 games and all PS5 games, as well as Blu-rays, DVDs. Like, you're getting a lot of value for $100. It's worth it. But the Series S is $200 cheaper than the X, and is also less powerful. And they did that. It was smart. It allowed people to get into next gen gaming if they didn't care about physical at all for $300 using Game Pass. It was a smart buy. If you cared about physical, you cared about more of that power, then the One X $500, go for it. That I think is what Nintendo needs to do. Not the digital over physical part, but the power. And they already have the Switch. So if they come out with this new Switch and they say all Switch games are playable on it, but there will be Switch 2 only games, and that's $500, those adapters will go for it. But if, let's say, Breath of the Wild 2 is a launch system game, launch game for it, it's going to be on the Switch. They've done it twice already with Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild. I think going forward, all Nintendo games will be Switch and Switch 2. So if you don't want to spend $500, you'll spend $300 or $200 or whatever with the Lite, get to play all those games. People will be happy. Those numbers will go up. And for the hardcore and for those third parties that say, we want to bring over, the newest Resident Evil, we want to bring over the newest Call of Duty, but we can't on the regular Switch. We could do it on the Switch too. That's where the market will be. And I think if they do that and market it correctly and keep the Switch alive, it will become the number one system, and it will secure their future because they'll build better relationships with third parties, and they'll have their family and they'll have their hardcore. And by the time the family decides it's time to get a Switch 2, which they may never, because the Switch library is huge, and if Nintendo keeps supporting the Switch, they may not have any reason to ever upgrade. But if they ever do, they can take their library with them, which is great.
Yeah. And I think go ahead, Greg.
I was just gonna say, at least in this point in time, I don't know if they can just release like a more powerful version that's technically a next gen and still keep the Switch afloat. I mean, we've heard time and time again, like, this the DS is still gonna be our third pillar in our consoles alongside the 3DS and Wii, and then boom, like the DS is just cut off. Like, the Wii and the Wii U and the 3DS are being our three pillars, and Wii is gone. Then it's like they always do that same marketing trick to say like, we'll still support the platform, and then they just axe the coverage of it. Now they're down to a single platform. Yeah.
If you look every time they've done this third pillar, it's never worked because of sales. So the first time they did this was the Virtual Boy. The SNES, the Game Boy, the Virtual Boy. Virtual Boy's numbers didn't make it worthwhile. They dropped the Virtual Boy. The next time they tried this was with the DS. You had the GameCube, you had the Game Boy Advance, and you had the DS. And they'll say, all right, the DS is a third pillar. And what happened was the DS sales took off, and the Game Boy Advance sales started falling, so they killed the Game Boy Advance. No longer a third pillar. So every time they do this third pillar, it's never sustainable because they're cannibalizing the market. One of the three is going to be the weakest link, and they always cut the weakest link. So in this case, they only have one pillar. It's the Switch. The Switch Lite, Switch OLED, they're all the Switch. So if they add in a Switch 2 and make it a second pillar, we know Nintendo can sustain two pillars. They've done it almost their entire career since 1989. But if they make all their games compatible with both systems, or at least the majority of their games, maybe a Xenoblade 3 or 4 might be too powerful and say we really need to use the power of the Switch 2 or a Bayonetta or something like that, fine, there will be exceptions to the rules. So we'll say 95% of the Nintendo first party titles, Switch 2 and Switch, it's easy to sustain because it's literally the same game. It's like if you buy an Xbox One game right now, you're buying an Xbox One and a Series X in the same box. If you buy a PS4 game that has that little blue tab, it says PlayStation 5 upgrade available. You're buying two games at the same time. So these companies are already proving that it's doable right now. No reason Nintendo couldn't do the same. And they've done it with games like, look at Hyrule Warriors Legends on the 3DS. It's playable on the original 3DS, but it plays better on the new 3DS.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, we think of that as two pillars, but I mean, my mind immediately goes to three pillars again. You could have Switch Lite as the only handheld one. You have Switch in the middle. And what if a Switch Pro or Switch 2 goes home console only? A couple of people were talking about in the chat already. What if that next version, the more powerful version, is a home only console? And you do have games that play play for the majority of them, 95% of them or so, that could play on all three platforms. But if you play it on the more powerful platform, you get enhanced gameplay, better, frame rate, better graphics, whatever it is. But keep all three of them going. I think it's interesting as well. Like we haven't talked about it in a while, but the cartridges, they do have the bigger cartridges that they haven't really been using, right? So like maybe that was them actually forward thinking and going, you know what, we're eventually going to use those on the next one because we're going to need that much space to be able to put bigger games that have 4K graphics or whatever on it. And so we'll eventually use those same cartridges. But hey, you know what? You could also play that on the existing Switch or a Switch Lite as well.
Don't forget about the other forward thinking where the Switch can read up to 2 terabyte SD cards, even though those don't even exist yet. So they are thinking forward thinking, and they'll apply that to the new system for sure.
They'll just be backwards thinking, and they'll continue to use that 1 megabyte card, and then you have to download the entire game onto your system. So,
yep.
Well, here's the thing about the Switch cards, and this is with the physical media, and this is a true thing. Each time you go up, so like if you say I want to make a physical game, and you get a 2 gigabyte card, which is the smallest card you can get, or 2 megabyte, whatever it is. That one is $8 from Nintendo, $8. The next size up is 4 gig, and it's an extra $1. It's $9, and it goes up for every size. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but you have a minimum of 5,000. Of course, these bigger companies are printing millions. It definitely adds money to it, and it's all more expensive than the DVDs, Blu-rays, whatever on the other systems. So that is a factor. If they do keep the cards, and they probably will, they may have these bigger cards, and they'll say these all exist. But if Nintendo keeps the price as it is, you're going to see a lot of third parties go, well, we're going to opt for the cheapest card where you have it physical, but you have to download everything. And that people hate that. People hate that. So if Nintendo can bring the cost down a little bit on the cards, I think they can push for a lot of great physical, high, memory games, and you could save memory on your Switch 2 or whatever they call it.
Right.
That is a factor. Those cards exist. It's totally forward thinking. It's just a matter of whether these companies choose to spend a little extra money to make their customers happy. And unfortunately, the majority of customers don't seem to care, and they're going to go the cheapest route possible. And Capcom and 2K love to exploit that.
Yeah. Well, and here we are again at this place where, coming out of the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube, and going, do we go with cartridges again, or we go back to discs because discs are cheaper to produce and we can go bigger on those? And do we have another proprietary disc, or they keep with us? So that's funny enough, it's like history keeps repeating itself with Nintendo. We're kind of back in this position again where it's going to be more expensive to produce bigger cartridges. Are they going to drop those costs, or are we just going to see what you said, Barry, or possibly just another increase in how much games cost? We're going to be paying $70-$80 a game.
And you know what? And people who say, oh, that's $70-$80, I mean, they used to be that in the NES, SNES, and 64 days. So it's actually, I'm surprised games have been as cheap as they have been for so long.
That's true. It's true. Well, let's move on. Speaking of money, this one, came out, I think, right after our last podcast, maybe just a couple days after our last episode. We found out that Microsoft just spent a big bag of money and entered a deal to purchase Activision-Blizzard for $68.7 billion. Yeah, that's a B. $billion. That's a whole heck of a lot of money. I remember thinking back when was it Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion, and we thought that's a lot of money. Now we got $68 billion. That's almost 69 Instagrams for Activision-Blizzard. And as you guys have known, Activision-Blizzard has been under a lot of heat, we'll say, lately, with a lot of unfortunate accusations about how they've been treating their employees and a bunch of other stuff. And not Nintendo, Microsoft has stepped in, going to buy the company out, and they say that things are going to. They want to make a better, situation here for this company and employees, and continue to make games that are cross-platform and all this stuff. So I mean, we've been seeing more and more Microsoft games on Nintendo platforms, and this is also a Microsoft gaming acquisition, not an Xbox Game Studios acquisition. So I don't really know what that distinction really is, other than it's just a separate entity within the Microsoft brand. But maybe they're going in that direction. I don't really know. We're going to talk about it in just a second and get a chance to see what you guys think about this as well. But yeah, if you haven't heard, Microsoft is in deals to purchase Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion. Barry, what do you think of this deal?
Not a fan.
Yeah?
Not a fan. I think this is the wrong way for the gaming industry to quote-unquote grow. I do think that Activision needs change. I think we all can agree that Activision needs a lot of change. And this is not the change or the way the change would happen that I was hoping for. Microsoft has stated that stuff will still be multi-platform. Microsoft seems to be pretty good with that. I think what we need to look at is, what does Microsoft do in a year or two's time? It seems almost like Microsoft is just trying to build up a portfolio of amazing studios to do a streaming thing or like a service, or just almost become a third party. Like, we realize we're not doing well with the Xbox. Let's do PC and let's do third party and just put our games everywhere. And if that's the case, then it's okay. And the reason I say it's okay is because Microsoft has the money to back it up. Microsoft has the money to make sure that the games get the time, less crunch, so to speak, so the games get the right amount of development time, and that people get treated fairly and properly. If Microsoft, however, changes it and says, you know what, we're going to push the Xbox, all of Activision Blizzard games, all of them are PC and Xbox only exclusives, screw Nintendo, screw Sony, that's not good for the industry. Exclusives are fine. Exclusives make sense. Mass exclusives and buying exclusives like this is like, I don't know, it's just a giant childish game in the sense, like, oh, well, I have it now, you can't, ha 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 ha, because I opened up my wallet. It really depends on how Microsoft handles this and what they do, and that will determine my feelings overall.
All right. Greg, what do you think about this deal?
I mean, obviously competition is better when there's more companies in place, and this is just like kind of lowering that down. And it is kind of sad to see like another company getting picked up by Microsoft, because it could be more exclusive for Xbox down the line. Obviously not this early in the game, because they've already said they're going to continue their commitments to like the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 and any like Switch games already in development. But like, this, what it comes down to is just more games, more exclusive to Xbox that like can be down the line, and I've kind of hurts the industry as a whole just to have less games on less platforms. It obviously really stinks with everything going on with Activision Blizzard. I'm still surprised they would charge that much to even be picked up. But I mean, that's just money can talk, and Microsoft was really heck bent on getting them. So
it's not for the people; it's for the IPs. They bought them for the IPs.
Yeah. I really hope that they do like kind of clean house a little bit with it, get rid of all those bad people out of there. But that's also stinks for people that have to lose their jobs for something like that as well.
Right. Right. Well, it's definitely, I think it's, it's something that, what we know about Microsoft over the years is that is something they will not put up with. I think as a company that will tarnish their brand so bad. So they've got to take action, like severe action. I think if anybody is still left on that team that has been contributing to any of that negative press or anything like that, stuff that's actually, happened within the company, I feel like Microsoft will definitely put an end to it, because they can't afford to have that kind of negative press for a company their size. I think it's interesting that it is Microsoft Gaming that's doing this instead of Xbox Game Studios. So I feel like it seems like Microsoft is moving this direction of becoming more of they want to be the game studio. Clearly, they're buying Activision-Blizzard. Like that's huge acquisition of IP. So like, yeah, will government step in or something like that? Could this risk becoming some sort of monopoly at some point? Like, I hear what you're saying, Barry, because it could be very dangerous. And Greg, you said it too, is like for the gaming industry, like when there's less competition. But like, is Microsoft wanting to move to that? Like, hey, we want to provide, Microsoft Game Pass on every console out there and bring all your games to our console, similar to Steam, and just like, hey, we'll be the platform that we will publish all these games and put them out there.
And that seems to be where they're going, but it also feels like all this stemmed from the fact that Microsoft doesn't have exclusives. And that was the big thing. Like, oh, Microsoft, you don't have exclusives. And you look at the past, I don't know, say 5 Xbox E3 shows, and all they talk about is how many exclusives, how many timed exclusives, how many console exclusives. Like, they shove it. Like, oh yeah, it's like an overreaction. It's pretty much like saying, oh, you need to go right at that intersection because everyone else is going right. It's like, oh, I got to go right. Okay, well, I'm gonna turn right with my car, but I've got NOS on it, and I'm gonna, instead of gonna go with the speed limit of 35 miles an hour, I'm gonna go 150 miles an hour and blow down that road. And I was like, no, 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 you just have to make a right. And that's almost seems like Microsoft is doing. It's like, oh no, we don't have exclusives. Okay, well, let's see, who should we buy? And oh, we're buying this, and we're buying this, and we're buying this. And then they come out and they're like, hey, guess what? We're going to do a 10-minute presentation during E3 to talk about all the studios we bought. Now we have those exclusives. You like us now? And it's like, that's not what we meant.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's going to be the interesting thing. I think long term where this goes. Gray, do you think are we going to see Microsoft keep these games closely, or do you think they will play nice and share?
I really hope that they play nice and share, but I mean, it all really comes down to what they're going to try and do. I mean, they bought Rare, and then Rare hasn't really had any games on Nintendo platforms, so.
That's true. They're gonna kill Activision-Blizzard, just absorb the IP, and just like, and we're gonna keep like the top 3 games, and everything else dies.
To be fair, not only is Rare pretty much dead, all the people that made the N64 classics, I don't think are work there anymore at all.
That's true.
But when they bought Rare, they were doing Xbox, and they were 100% going for exclusives, and Xbox is what they were focusing on. Now we're at the Xbox Series X, and at this time, you see games like Ori on the Switch. You see games like Cuphead on PS4 and Switch. You see games like Minecraft on all platforms. You see Microsoft, and Nintendo working together to get Minecraft Steve and Banjo in Smash. You see them allowing Nintendo to put Banjo-Kazooie on Nintendo Switch Online. You have games like Deathloop, which was in development when they bought Bethesda, and that's a PS5 exclusive. They allowed them to release it as an exclusive for their closest competitor because that was already in the deal. You really have to wonder how much are they going to keep to their chest, or are they just going to be, we're opening up to everybody. They stated that they're going to put their games where it makes sense. So, for example, now that they have Activision, if they're going to make a new Spyro game, it would make sense to put that on Nintendo because platformers sell statistically better on the Switch. So they're going to put it on the Switch because it's going to sell better because they make money. The game's already developed. They're going to make money off of it. That's not to say it won't be on Xbox as well, because it sure as hell will be. It won't be a Switch exclusive, but it might not hit PlayStation.
It's true. Speaking of which, how weird is it that Microsoft now owns several of the characters that were known as Sony
Yep.
characters for a while? Like that's crazy to like think in a world that's like it'd be like if Nintendo all of a sudden owned Sonic the Hedgehog. Like how weird would that be? So yeah, Greg, any thoughts around just like that craziness of like, wow, like Microsoft owns these characters now, like Banjo Kazooie, or not Banjo Kazooie, Crash Bandicoot. Like that's weird.
I almost feel like Nintendo practically does have Sonic, but like the bulk of the Sonic games are on Switch, and I know there are some Sonic games still on like Xbox and PlayStation, but I feel like the bulk of the Sonic games are on Switch these days. But yeah, I mean that's definitely a very weird world that we're living in, where a character that was on other platforms is jumping ship to a completely different platform altogether. I mean, obviously there was like a little bit of a scare, not really a scare, but like with the CDI and the Zelda and Mario had games over there, but obviously that system was awful. So I don't know. You never really know where characters go these days, and the fans will just follow their character anyway. So if it's going to be on a different platform, then they'll bring over the fan base over there.
That's true. That's true. So Microsoft's not the only one going on a buying spree recently. We just got word today, wasn't it? Just today, like just a few hours ago, that Sony's also going to start buying game companies, and they're going to start with Bungie. Yep, Sony bought Bungie for a little less than Microsoft bought Activision-Blizzard, but they still spent quite a bit of money, $3.6 billion, also with the B. $3.6 billion. Bungie, big studio that's like their big game, of course, is Destiny and that series. But yeah, they say that they're, of course, going to continue to support cross-platform, just like Microsoft says and everything. But yeah, we don't know where it's going to go in the future. Right now, Destiny 2 is one of the big games, and so they want to continue supporting that IP and continue pushing it forward. But yeah, Sony bought Bungie Studios for $3.6 billion. Nintendo, you're running out of game studios to buy. That's all I'm just going to say. There's not going to be many left at that level pretty soon if Microsoft and Sony keep going on these buying sprees and spending bags and bags and bags of cash on these studios. Barry, any your thoughts similar to the Microsoft Activision deal, or is this a better deal?
I mean, thoughts are similar. This is obviously a smaller deal. Bungie doesn't have a host of IP. They're a talented studio, sure, but they have one IP. They own Destiny. It's not the same as Activision, because remember, Activision was not only was it Blizzard as well with their own set of IPs, but it was also like King, which I'm not a Candy Crush person, but that has made a lot of money. So there's a lot of IP and establishments there. It's one company. It's Bungie. I do think it's pretty hilarious that Microsoft now owns Crash and Spyro, who are known for starting on PlayStation, as well as Banjo, who started on Nintendo, and Sony owns Bungie, the makers of Halo, which is Microsoft's biggest IP, and who previously worked with Destiny with Activision, who now Microsoft owns. It's just like feels like some really weird love triangle kind of thing going on, but I mean, this one makes a little more sense. But the fact that Sony is open to keeping it third party is quite telling, because maybe Sony has started, either this is Sony's doing or this is one of the stipulations that Bungie said we will allow this buyout, because remember, a buyout, both parties have to agree. This isn't just an overnight thing, or this isn't just a, hi, guess what, here's $3.6 billion, I now own you. They have to agree to it. That could have been one of the stipulations. If you purchase us, so we could utilize your resources, and obviously we'll probably do PlayStation exclusive content in a game like Destiny or whatever, sure, but we want to be able to to have our game out or all of our games out for other people because we have fans on all platforms. And Sony agreed. And the fact that Sony agreed shows an openness that Microsoft's been showing, and even Nintendo has been showing. And I like to see that. I like to see this more inclusive as an entire industry as opposed to, system specific, you know, kind of atmospheres, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Greg, what do you think about this Sony deal?
I mean, it pretty much falls in line with what I was saying with the previous one. It's still going to cut down exclusives, and I mean, they're going to be changing hands, and obviously with this is interesting. Just like Halo is more involved in this, and as Barry said, that's like one of the biggest IPs on it's exclusive to Xbox, and now it's going to be exclusive to PlayStation. So that's
No. Halo is still owned by Xbox. 343 has been making Halo games, but Bungie created Halo when Microsoft got the rights and supported and published it. They owned Halo from the publishing, and Bungie made up until Halo Reach. After that, 343 did Halo 4 and onwards. Bungie has nothing to do with Halo anymore. So Halo is Xbox still, but Halo is the child of Bungie, and it's because of Bungie that it's even on the map.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that. I'm not in the know of all things Bungie. All I know is like I'm seeing that they were responsible for Halo, and I thought they were getting Halo and all the games with it. But obviously, that's no longer the case. Yeah. So I misspoke there. So yeah, it still still stands as it's less companies out there and more like companies under other umbrellas with the franchises that they have and the characters and everything involved there. So it's obviously not the best thing in this world, but it just seems like we're just trying to lower the number down, and hopefully Nintendo can actually require Retro Studios to make that official. I know they own doing a lot for Nintendo, and I didn't think it was full on 100%.
Yeah, they bought it back in the GameCube
49
days.
or something.
It was like one of the last times they actually did buy a company like that. I feel like
they did Monolith Soft. They did Next Level Games. They've done quite a bit.
I guess they have. It's just not as many as like Microsoft and Sony.
Yeah,
true. Yeah, I guess.
And we'll see.
Platinum is. They could still get Platinum, and I know people wanted them to get Platinum. They can also pick up like Yacht Club games. That would be a good one to pick up as well. I don't know.
I mean, they could go for Way Forward. They could go for Grasshopper. They could go for Sega, for all we know. But the reason is Nintendo doesn't have the money that Sony and Microsoft have. Nintendo has like 6, maybe 10 billion in the bank, So buying something like Bungie would deplete a good chunk of their reserves. And if there's no reason to purchase, like Platinum, as much as it'd be cool if they bought Platinum, why? Platinum's making Babylon Fall for Square, which is not going to be on the Switch. Other than that, Platinum pretty much makes mostly Switch games. They have a great working relationship. Astral Chain was the child that they wanted to make, and Nintendo allowed them to do it. Nintendo owns that IP. They've got a great working relationship without spending a dime. So why should they spend more? Now, if Platinum said, hey, Sony wants to purchase us and we won't be able to work anymore unless you want to jump first, then maybe they'll do it. But Nintendo is frugal. If they don't have to spend money, they're not going to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And they obviously need the money because Microsoft has like Windows and other stuff it could fall back on. Sony has like TVs and other computers as well. So those are a lot bigger companies that have other industries that they're a part of, where Nintendo is just video games basically.
Yeah.
So I know they had other industries in the past, but it's not like they're been using those like in current day. It's all just being known as a video game company.
Yeah.
But they are branching out now with movies and theme parks.
That's true. That actually does bring a question in my mind. Like when you think about this, like there really are, like, for weird reason, there's always been that big three, and that big three has changed over the years. But Nintendo, as far as as an overall company, I mean, they're our number 5 best-selling console of all time right now. But they are just a video game company. Like when it's all said and done, that's what they are. And Microsoft and Sony have so many other forms of revenue that are coming in from a bunch of different products that they're able to put out, and services they're able to put out. And so, like, is this, does it seem like, are Microsoft and Sony trying to like take Nintendo out in this, or do you think they're actually is this going to profit Nintendo at all by Microsoft and Sony buying these other big game studios and kind of starting to move in and make their what is already big even bigger? Is this going to be good for Nintendo at all? I mean, I know we're not industry analysts, we're not stock people or whatever. We don't know all the ins and outs and everything, but just kind of speculate a little bit. What's the writing on the wall for Nintendo when these their competitors, which are already big, are getting bigger? What do you think, Barry?
The writing is not there at all, because Nintendo has proven that they can survive on their first party alone. I mean, the Wii U was a failure, but they were still, for the most part, posting green. They did have a red month or a couple red months, but for the most part, green. The N64, same thing. GameCube, same thing. They can do it. Nintendo can perfectly survive fine on their first party. They've done it before, they could do it again. However, Nintendo has another avenue. Indies. Indies sell extremely well on the Switch. We've had discussions with different developers, and they've all told us that the Switch makes up 50% or more of their total sales compared to all other platforms, including Steam, PS4, Xbox. The Switch sales are just a juggernaut. So Nintendo has that. And a lot of people may say, I'm going to get a PlayStation 5 or a Series X or a PC and a Switch. And as long as Nintendo is that supplementary secondary system that people say, well, I'm going to get it for Nintendo first party, I'm going to get it for the indie games on the go, and maybe a third party game here or there, but mainly the exclusives, they're going to do just fine. They're making money. They're posting in the green every single month. So there is no writing on the wall. And here's something that is a fact. Phil Spencer has stated multiple times that he has an extreme amount of love and respect for Nintendo. And if Nintendo was hurting for whatever reason, I have a feeling that he would do something to give them a loan or do whatever to keep them afloat, because if Nintendo were to ever go out, video games as an industry would be dead. And he knows it, because it would kill everything. It would turn into nothing but Call of Duties, FIFAs. Would he still make games? Sure. But it wouldn't have the heart and soul. He would do what he could to keep them alive, because he admits he absolutely loves Nintendo games. He is a Nintendo fanboy working for Microsoft, and I think that's absolutely hilarious. But it's great at the same time, because he knows where, where the heart is. And if you ask the majority of developers right now for these companies that work on these AAA games, maybe they're not on Nintendo, but you ask them, where did you start? The majority of people will say on a Nintendo platform. They will say they've started with the Mario, they started with the Zelda, they started with the Mario Kart, then they still go back and play those games. They will never go away. And if for whatever reason Nintendo says we're calling it quits, I guarantee you Microsoft will be right there and say, look, we're not letting you. Let us at least buy and keep these things alive.
Yeah. I think it'd be generous to say that they are going to offer them a loan. I think Microsoft would be there with a check and going, "Hey, we'll buy you for $100 billion.
No,
have a nice retirement.
I think,
Mario now belongs to us."
I think Phil would do a loan out of his own personal thing. I think he's that passionate.
Okay.
I think he.
I
he
hope
is
we
just
don't
that
come to
passionate.
that day. I really hope we don't come to that day and figure it
Why
out.
would we?
Yeah.
Again, Nintendo is posting profits, so the writing's not on the wall at all. And if you want to look at Activision, what has Activision done for the Switch? Right? They've got the couple Crash games and one Skylanders game at the very launch, and a Spyro 3-pack, and that's pretty much it. Maybe a small game here or there. Or Diablo 3 and 2 came to the Switch as well. That's it.
But it's
If
like
you took
years
out those
after.
games,
Yeah.
yeah, if you took out those games, the Switch library doesn't truly suffer. It's fine. We haven't had a Call of Duty on Nintendo since the Wii U days.
It's
So
true.
it's not a big thing for Nintendo, and Bungie has never put a game on Nintendo, as far as I'm aware.
Mhm.
So it's not gonna really affect Nintendo at all. But I guarantee you they're watching this, and maybe they've got some acquisitions in mind. Maybe they're gonna be reactionary to it. Now, I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, well, this Bungie acquisition was reactionary to Activision," and it's not. Because again, it wasn't just, "Oh, quick, hey Bungie,
Right.
you want to hook up? All right." Like these things
Hey, we
take
heard this happened.
years.
So yeah.
These things take years to work out. There's a lot of lawyers and things to go through. So this just happened to be ironically
Right.
announced 2 weeks later, but
Hmm.
these things were in the works for a while. And that may be one of the stipulations. If you remember when Bungie broke from Activision, they got the Destiny IP and they got all the rights to Destiny from Activision. And that could have been one of the stipulations. Sony said, we'll work with you and we'll fund you, but you got to get Destiny.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're not worth as much. And that may be why that happened. And that was, I feel like that was like a year and a half ago, maybe
Something
two
like
years
that.
ago at this
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah. And this does come off of, I mean, just to add to that point, Take-Two just bought Zynga as well. So like it wasn't all reactionary at all.
yeah.
That was a $12.7 billion deal. Like
Jeez.
it's ridiculous. Like Zynga is worth that much more than Bungie. Think about that. But yeah, Greg, do you think this is going to have any sort of impact on Nintendo at all? Or, will things basically be the same? Like Barry was saying, we don't really have a whole lot of those games on Nintendo platforms anyway. So will we see much of a difference moving forward?
I don't think there's gonna be much of a difference. I mean, as Barry said, there's very little games even from any of those companies that are on Switch, and even like fewer on like some of the old, like even like Wii U and some of the older platforms. Those companies have been more primarily Xbox and PlayStation like platforms. So I don't really see Nintendo being in a place where they're gonna be losing out on much of anything. Um, Hopefully with like Microsoft having like Activision-Blizzard, maybe they might actually get some more IPs onto Switch or the Switch successor. I mean, that's always the case down the line, but I don't see it impacting Nintendo like any way negatively or from these deals overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
I do stand. Jakester mentioned Overwatch. I forgot Overwatch as well.
Oh yeah.
And he also
Overwatch.
brings up Phil Spencer was on a talk show for Animal Crossing, which is true. That just shows how much of a fanboy he is.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Heading back up in the chat just a bit, Logan also pointed out that Sony has a market cap of $133 billion and Nintendo has a market cap of $57 billion. But that doesn't necessarily mean cash on hand, but it just gives you a good idea of like the size of the company itself. So like over twice the size. Sony has, a market cap of over twice the size of Nintendo. So that's pretty huge and just got bigger. With bringing Bungie on board as well, looking to have 44 billion in 2021. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of crazy. We'll see where it goes from here. Maybe Nintendo will eventually, buy Electronic Arts or some crazy thing like that. We've seen, we didn't think this stuff was going to happen. Probably Nintendo will not buy EA, but crazier things have happened for sure.
Nintendo could buy Ubisoft. They've been working together.
That's true. They could.
Starlink 2, baby.
Yeah, there we go. That's what the next Star Fox game becomes. Just Star Fox takes over.
Hey, it's canon now.
They need something because that game was great, and it's so sad that it died. Just horrible death. So, all right, well, let's move on into some quick headlines. And we got 4 quick headlines we wanted to make sure that you guys knew about. And just going to move through those really quick. Barry, you want to take it away with the first one?
Yeah, so Life is Strange Remastered Collection is something that we discussed last time on the podcast and talking about, how it comes out the next day after our next podcast. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case for the Switch version. So it still comes out tomorrow for all other systems, but the Switch version was unfortunately delayed.
We got a new game coming onto the Nintendo Switch on April 5th, and that is MLB The Show 2022. So we were just talking about Activision, or not Activision, EA having very little support on the Switch, and it looks like they're finally starting to move off of FIFA and bring some other sports games over to the Switch. So check it out on April 5th.
Yes. And speaking of checking things out, there's a new retail physical store heading to Cary, North Carolina. This one coming from Limited Run Games. They are opening up a retail store to sell their own products as well. And should be interesting to see it when it opens. The pictures look great, but unfortunately, if you're not in North Carolina, it is you have to commute to it. And I don't think they're going to do shipping from the store, but you can still get their games from their website, of course.
Our podcast has the history of predicting Nintendo Directs, but you might think that this is a Nintendo Direct, but it's actually a Yacht Club Games Presents, and there's going to be a stream tomorrow, February 1st, and they have some groundbreaking announcements of upcoming games. Stay tuned in to around 2 o'clock Pacific time or 5 o'clock Eastern time for Yacht Club Games Presents.
Nice. I'm really interested to see what this mega announcement is from Yacht Club. What could that be? Yeah. What do you guys think about? What's that?
I said probably Shovel Knight related.
What? They have other stuff other than Shovel. It's funny. I actually talked to we've talked to Yacht Club before, back at Old Industry Talk, and talked to them
the first
about
one
PAX and stuff like that too. And they talked about how they want to get away from Shovel Knight, and yet that's still like their primary IP, and people are still asking for more. So
they did say they did do like a 3D Shovel Knight, like a Mario 64-esque one. So I wonder if that has finally come to fruition.
That's true.
Find out tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, I am bummed that Life is Strange Remastered Collection is not coming, but at the same time, I do, I'm probably going to end up playing it on another system anyway. Just a quick small correction. I think we mentioned that MLB The Show is actually from EA. It's actually a Sony property. So,
sorry.
That's no big deal. I think you'd mentioned it coming from Sony, but EA kind of trickled in there as well. But it's a Sony property, which just adds this kind of craziness of things are shuffling around, and it is a game that I never thought I would see. But hey, I'm so excited to see a good baseball game coming to a Nintendo system, because it's been a while. The other MLB game, it's been on.
Yeah,
it's not so good.
Yeah.
So. RBI baseball.
Bad. I just assumed all the sports games are out of EA these days.
Right. Yeah, the show is actually really, really good. So it's, I think it came to Xbox last year. Yeah.
Yep.
So now they're going multi-platform this year. So they just want more of that cash, and they realized, hey, it's going to get them more money if they decide to bring it cross-platform. So good for them.
I don't think that's necessarily it, though.
Yeah.
What I think happened is because in order for them to continue with the show, they need the MLB license. And I think the MLB said the contract's up for you to renew. We want our game on all platforms because we want everybody to be able to enjoy MLB. And if you're unable to do that, then we're going to find somebody else who will. And Sony did not want to lose that. So I think they agreed to do that just to keep the MLB license. Because without it, they got no game. The show would be dead. But baseball, the show, no one's going to care. They want the players. They want the teams.
Totally.
They want. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as Barry was saying before he just got cut off. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, no one would be buying if it's just a regular baseball game. But that is interesting. I didn't realize that the MLB license was going to be going up. So that does make a lot of sense. If that's the case, because I could definitely see, that definitely playing into the whole thing, and why they would want to make that, cross-platform and everything, for sure. So.
Is that like the primary license these days? Because wasn't there like other MLB games like before the show?
Yes.
Of it?
Yes. Yeah, it's been a while. I think MLB The Show, and then they do have what is it, the RBI baseball or whatever the
RBI Baseball. It was
Yeah.
Major League Baseball 2K from 2K Games.
Yeah. So there's not really a whole lot left anymore in the baseball world. MLB has kind of restricted their licensing. So yeah, if they lost it, really wouldn't have much.
Yeah,
So-
EA used to do triple play.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there was like an MLB game on GameCube that I had really liked, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. I
All-Star
don't know if it was-
Baseball. All-Star Baseball was Acclaim Sports before they went out.
Oh, Acclaim. Yeah.
Yep.
Remember them. Yeah. I think it'd be interesting. And,
It was-
and I think the biggest thing that people that I've talked to, the biggest game that Switch is still missing. I mean, FIFA is still kind of there. Be great if PES came over to Switch as well. But Madden is like the biggest game. There's no NFL, there's no football games on Switch. And I know a lot of people who would be like just jumping on top of a Switch if they haven't already, if Madden came over or something like that.
There's more than just Madden. I mean, there's no NHL game, but there is one hockey game.
That is true. That is true. But there's a lot more NFL fans than NHL fans for sure.
Oh yeah. Another baseball game that you might be thinking of on the GameCube was MLB Slugfest from Midway, another company that's now gone.
Yeah, that's true.
And that game was great. If you've never played Slugfest was fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever played it or not.
I feel like I have, but I can't remember.
I had rented it.
It was great.
definitely
Like
did
you're
rent
running to
that
first base, and you could beat up the first baseman to get him to drop the ball, so you could be safe.
Nice. Like NFL Blitz
Yep.
and NHL Hits.
Yeah, it was that same
Yeah.
series. Yeah.
Yep.
Those are the sports games I usually like getting more
Right.
into because
Those are awesome.
do all the things that you can't do in the actual sports. Like,
That's right.
why don't they just like do this? Like, they could just
Right.
knock them out.
And make
Just
it a lot
punch 'em.
more interesting. That's why I like going to minor league hockey games. They fight more.
Oh yeah, they fight all the time.
Yeah, and Barry, you gonna be making a trip down to North Carolina to
No,
hit
I
up
don't foresee myself doing it. No,
It is
but I
interesting.
do wish them the very best of luck, of
Yeah.
course.
Taking physical to the next level, I guess.
Hey, you know what? They got big doing it and big enough to open up a store in their hometown, and that's great. And more retail presence is always a good thing.
Let's go to the chat real quick and see if their thoughts are. Jakester says if Nintendo bought EA, that would be interesting. Never played a game from EA. Wow, that's actually really surprising.
Wow.
I'm speechless. That's wow. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of EA anymore, but I've definitely played a lot of their games. Logan also. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
I was just gonna say, it just goes back to show like how older we are. I mean, EA
That's
used to
true.
be on older Nintendo platforms like
That's
GameCube
true.
and 64 and stuff like that. So
NES, SNES.
Retract all that, Greg. Stop reminding us how old we are. Jakester does enough of that in our Discord.
All the time.
Logan also said that 1997 Microsoft made $150 million investment in Apple, kind of actually proving what Barry said, that they could actually, offer that olive leaf over to a Nintendo if that would actually,
Same.
need to happen. So
It's possible, but it probably will never be needed.
Yep. And then, Jakester also said, too bad Madden doesn't exist or doesn't have the attitude about NFL not being on Switch. That's true. Yeah, if the NFL as a whole could push the cross-platform similar to the MLB, then we could actually see Madden pop up there and there. But NFL has not taken that kind of an interest in that for sure. And it also said that if we did get Madden games on Switch, we would get the bad Legacy editions. That's also true. They bring the Legacy edition from the GameCube days. Actually, when was the last time we saw Madden on an actual Madden game on a Nintendo system? Has it been since? It's not been since 64, has it? Surely we got one on
Madden?
GameCube.
We got
there was
Wii U.
it was on GameCube.
Wii U was
Madden
Wii U
13
was
was the
not
last one.
the right one. Like, wasn't it?
But
It
it was-
wasn't that a cartoony version.
No, you're thinking of Madden 09 All Play on the Wii.
Oh, that's what I was
Madden
thinking. yeah.
13 was on the Wii and the Wii U, and that was the launch year for the Wii U when EA was like, "We're gonna give you our support," and that
Okay.
was the first and last one on the Wii U, and the last Madden game to hit a Nintendo console.
Okay. So yeah, we're
The
almost at
3DS
10
got
years.
one game.
Right. Kind of crazy. Well, we're going to move on to look ahead the next couple weeks. But before we do that, we just want to quickly remind you to subscribe, hit that like button here on YouTube if you have the opportunity. Also hit the bell so you can be alerted every time we go live. And hit the share button as well. Share this with other Nintendo fans that you know that are out there. If you've not done so yet, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're just at NintendoFuse. And also, if you've not joined our Discord yet, we love chatting with you guys in between episodes over on Discord. So link is on the screen, but also in the show notes and the YouTube description. Love to have you guys all join us on social media and join us in the Discord. Of course, if you listen to this podcast later after the fact and you enjoy what you hear, we would love for you to leave a positive review as well. That just helps us know what you like, for one, but also how it kind of just helps other people find it. You know, when podcasts get good reviews, iTunes and other places, or Apple Podcasts, other places will continue to promote them a little bit more. And so if you like what you hear, that's a great way to do that. If you enjoy what we do here at NintendoFuse, some different ways that you can support us is buying some merch. You can head over to NintendoFuse.com and you can click the merch button there and buy a t-shirt, buy some other stuff that we got on the merch site. And we do accept donations. It's not something we talk about a whole lot, but you can go head over to our Anchor podcast site and you can actually donate some money if you care to do so. That'd be great. We do this for free because we just love doing it. But, you know, if you would like to, you know, throw some money our way just as a way of thank you, we will not turn it down. Let's say that.
Or if you work
yeah,
for Microsoft, we'll be bought out too.
that's true. $6.8 billion for NintendoFuse. No.
On the next episode of the Microsoft Fuse podcast.
That's right. That's right. If Phil comes our way and decides to throw that money our way, it'd be hard to turn down. But we'll still do this for free, though, because we just enjoy doing it. But let's look ahead a little bit. Next podcast, as we've said, is not going to be live. We're gonna have to pre-record that one. But the next one comes out on February 14th. So there's a few games coming out over the next couple weeks, and a lot of them have the name Kingdom Hearts attached to them. So like all of the Kingdom Hearts games, mostly cloud versions of the Kingdom Hearts games, are all coming to Switch over the next couple weeks. Also, as you guys that are watching the video version, we'll be scrolling these on the screen. But just some other notable games coming out over the next couple weeks are Ollie Ollie World, which we've talked about a couple times on the podcast before. And like I said, all of the different Kingdom Hearts games that have gigantic names. Like, it's kind of getting unruly with all these gigantic names. I think my favorite is Kingdom Hearts Integrum Masterpiece for Cloud. But then there's also Kingdom Hearts HD plus, or 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix Cloud version, or Kingdom Hearts 3 plus Remind DLC cloud version. Like, it's getting crazy, guys. But Alexio is also coming out. Fun little game with a duck. So, if Kingdom Hearts isn't your thing, go check out Alexio and play a $4.99 game with a little duck. He's cute. So Greg, or actually, let's go to Barry. Keep things the same all night. Go to Barry first. Barry, what are you hoping to play over the next couple weeks?
I'm hoping to finish Pokemon Legends Arceus for sure, and more in Final Fantasy 14 to keep my dailies up and work on my gear and other jobs. That's the main thing. I know there's some other bigger titles coming out February and March, although I don't know if they're going to be all on the Switch. I know like Strangers of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins will be coming out during that time period, and I forget all that's coming out. It's gonna be one of those things like, oh, this drops tomorrow. I'm like, oh my god, I totally forgot about that. I gotta play it. So
Kittens
but
and Yarn
mainly
comes out
Pokemon.
on February 10th, by the way.
There we go. Kittens and Yarn, gotta play it. For sure. Again, Pokemon Legends and Final Fantasy 14, and also the next game that we'll be reviewing, or I'll be reviewing for the podcast.
Nice. Greg, what do you be playing over the next couple weeks?
Pretty much just what I was playing before the podcast today. It's probably continue on with the Life is Strange. I have the Demonica one to do alongside Buried next time along too. Still probably gonna be playing more Pokemon, more Animal Crossing. Pretty much nothing was really jumping out to me this time around. I mean, I would normally want to try the Kingdom Hearts games, but just seeing cloud versions does not fill my mind very happily. So, unfortunately, I think I'll probably be passing on those.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing more of True Colors for sure. Hope to get that finished possibly by the next time we have a podcast, and then start on the probably I'll start right into one of the other games as well. Barry's already given me his, the layout of the direction I should go, and then the chronological order, I think. So I'll have to get those games and probably get them on a different system since they're not coming out on Switch anymore. But
they're just being
well,
delayed.
that's true. Yeah, not on February 1st anymore. But the chance of me finishing it by tomorrow is slim to none anyway. So I'll have a little bit of time. But yeah, it's interesting. We don't have a date. They just said it's been delayed and that's it. But yeah, I forgot actually. I skipped over my favorite, in quotes, Kingdom Hearts game. It's Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue Cloud version. Yeah. Whatever. But we've expressed our disappointment that all these games are cloud versions before, so we won't go into that. But it's really, really sad because I do want to play those games, and I have good internet. It's weird to put money toward like you saying, Barry, already about like physical versus digital. Like, it's one thing to like at least be able to download the game on your system and still be able to play it. But if it's only in the cloud, like they could shut down the servers, and that's just money I donated to them, and that's it. Like that's
if you have crappy internet that day or spotty internet,
yeah, or want to play on the go, like, and you don't have a hotspot, yeah. So that's unfortunate, just in general. Although I like, until we do get a more powerful system, it's nice that we have the option, I guess, of playing some of those games that we normally wouldn't be able to. Although I don't think some of these Kingdom Hearts games are really going to be taking up that much system resources, but whatever.
Some of them are PS2 games. I mean, come on.
It's dumb. But anyway, like I said, we've already went into it. We're not going to go into it again, and there I start. So I'll take that back. But yeah, anything else that you guys going to be doing over the next couple weeks that you want to talk about? Barry, I know you've been on some different podcasts. We've had a cool industry talk interview recently, so you want to tell the audience about that?
Sure. So I was just, as I mentioned at the start, I was on the NXS podcast. I did a Nintendo special, so I was asked to join that. It was a lot of fun. Great group of guys over there, and hopefully, we'll be back with them. We just did an industry talk with for the game Horus. The developer of Horus and I sat down and we talked. That went up last week. The game sold out on the first day. That's super rare. 4,000 physical copies sold out the first day. It's a great game, and it's available digitally on the Switch. And great interview. The guy's industry veteran. He's been there for like 25 years or something like that. Like, he's really worked on a lot of cool different games and has some interesting stories to tell. So definitely check that out. Latest Switch Mania Playcast also just came out, where we discuss some of these things and some other things. So that is available if you're interested in checking that out as well. And a lot of the other stuff I'm doing, I can't really talk about because it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff with premiums. There's a lot of cool, good stuff on the way. So that's all I can say, is to stay tuned, because I want to share some things, but can't share them just yet.
Nice. Greg, what are you gonna be up to the next couple weeks, other than gaming away?
Pretty much that's about it. I have been kind of looking into trying to build like a arcade machine briefly, so I don't know if I'll have that kind of going underway or just more considering it, because I've had like a new friend come into that I've been talking to a lot, and he's been saying like, oh, you can buy some of the parts at like Micro Center and some other stuff like that, and so I might consider trying to do that in the future, but probably not before the next podcast, obviously. But I might join Barry in the woodworking scene.
Nice. That's so awesome. I dream about eventually owning my own home arcade machine. Like one of these days, it's gonna happen.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Like I really want a Galaga machine personally, but I know that like having a game that's like an arcade cabinet that's just like one game would be kind of limiting nowadays. Because I'm like, really, it'd be cool, but at the same time, like I probably wouldn't use it that much. It'd be cool for like 3 days and then I'd get over it. So like building something like I think what you're probably talking about is like they could, play a bunch of different emulators or something like that would be fun.
Yep, I already got like the RetroPie. I've had that for a number of years. I just need to get all that stuff like set up and configured, and then I would be able to jump into actually trying to work on actually building the cabinet. But
nice.
I don't know. That would be the idea, though, to have multiple games on it and not just be a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, when it happens, we'll have to show it off on the podcast and maybe do a little extra video here for our YouTube channel. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you all for tuning in for episode 244. Like I said, we'll be back. Next episode will drop on February 14th, 2022. But until then, happy gaming, everybody.
Have a good one.
See you later.